Hello, welcome to AOS Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. I'm joined by my Monday night co-host and worldwide premiere live streaming caster, Dan. How are you, Dan?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm living my best life. I'm being my best self. And I may have inhaled a lot of resin from cleaning up miniatures over the last little while. So yeah, I'm in a good place. I may see through time and into the future because I probably got high on the amount of paint fumes and glue fumes that I've been ingesting. But that's good. That's great. It's just going to make me more creative.
Yeah, love to hear that. Love that. Okay, well, good. I'm glad you're here. Hello, everyone. This is the Age of Sigmar Monday show, recorded live on a Monday night at 7 p.m. If you listen to the podcast, stay hydrated. And, of course, we're supported by everyone on Patreon, etc., etc. So please do like and subscribe. So me and Dan today, a couple of things. We're going to go through the news. And the news today, as Age of Sigmar fans, is prodigious. I'm just off the back of already recording kind of like a Trug deep dive. But me and Dan will be talking about that to kick us off.
We don't need to deep dive though, do we, Rob? We can splish splash in the shallow end of Trug because Trug has enough for everybody. Like you can splish splash or you can deep dive. Trug's got the love.
Trug is so weird, man. Like I can't wait to talk about it. We'll talk about it in a second. And then so Trug and then. But the main point of today's show is I need to get some stuff off my test about battle tactics. Dan is hopefully going to be able to cool me down. And then at the end of this, we're going to produce some new battle tactics for Age of Sigmar. If anyone listened to the show a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the battle tactics, the romance battle tactics, and so we're going to be going through those. So we're going to be talking about the problem with battle tactics and I guess other stuff in Age of Sigmar at the moment. Talking about that later, but we're not going to leave you without a solution. None of this. We're not doing half a job. We're not Nathan, who is missing today.
What, has Nathan only finished half a job?
Okay, so the backstory is, we, as you know, the TSN Arena, which is where the Honest Wargamer is recorded, which is where we hold live events, we have only had the top half of a building, and then we've taken over kind of the bottom quarter of the front of the building and the downstairs part. We've upgraded from having 8 tables to 12 tables down. Pretty exciting time for me, exciting time for everyone. So then this weekend, we booked in a 12-table doubles event. So that's 48 people. 24 teams, 48 people. Huge news. Now, the downstairs toilet has needed some work. Past couple of months, I've been like, Nathan! Are you coming over to do it? He's like, no problem. I didn't worry about it, my friend. I've got this. Did you? I'm in Berlin this weekend, though. Okay, all right. Okay, what? He's, oh, no, this weekend, no. I'm in a field. We're dressing as bunnies and we're doing mushrooms. Okay. Yeah. But what about during the week? Last week, or the week before last week, I messaged him. I was like, next week, the toilet, Nathan. He's like, I'm on it. Because otherwise, we've only got the one cubicle and a couple of urinals upstairs. I was like, that's a lot of heavy use for 48 people.
I was about to say, the thing about a War Dolly tournament, and I love all of the beautiful people that go to War Dolly tournaments. If you get into that washroom and you're not like in there in the first hour, it's like a bomb site.
Oh, no way, not what I do. I'm in there every person after with Febreze. I'm in there.
Oh, you know what you need, Rob? Is you need like I've been to clubs here where there's a
no. I am that guy. I am him.
Do you have a selection of deodorants and colognes as well? Where you're like, sir, may I? Like, this will really enhance your game if you smell along the same lines.
Yeah. Well, so it's slightly too small for me to set up shop in there, which is something I will be planning on doing to help monetize the venue. Obviously, in a few months' time. I'll be in there and I'll be like, no spray, no play, etc., etc. Is
a poo caddy. That's what you need, is a poo caddy. Excuse me, sir. Might I suggest the 3-ply? It sounds like you had a particularly rough one in there.
Anyway, so then the toilet needed doing, and then Nathan came thundering in. He messaged me. He's like on Wednesday, I was like, oh, what day are you coming in? Just cutting a bit fine. He's like, oh, no, I'm not doing, no, not this week, my friend. Maybe next week, my friend. And I was like, what? oh no. And I explained to him, I was like, Nathan, 48 people. Do you understand what's going to happen? He's like, oh no. Anyway, I thought, that's it. I'm going to have to. I put a sign up on the door, do not enter. And then he comes thundering in Friday night, okay? Because the floor needed sorting, basically, needed leveling out. He comes thundering in Friday night. He's like, I'm on it. I was like, what the hell? He's like, what, 3.5 hours? I'm going to do this. I was like, oh my God, what a hero. In the last minute, in the dying breaths, yeah? And he's like dripping with sweat. It's already a hot day. And then he just starts working. I'm like, this is why builders get paid so much money, because they are relentless workhorses. No one can stop them. Anyway, I hear banging. Bang, bang. I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. Comes back up. Not 10 minutes later. And he goes, all right, my friend, I've smashed all of the floorboards. They're gone. I was like, okay. And he goes, it's fucked. Can't do it. No, I don't have time. I must go. Yeah. And they just left. He just left.
I love that he comes in and he's like, okay, so I broke everything.
Yep.
Bye. And you're like, wait, no, what?
Yeah. So smashed up all the boards, left. So I had to be like, I said to people, I was like, don't go in there. And then one guy came up and went, oh, I don't think I got the briefing about not going in there, but that is really not okay. I was like, I know, I told you, don't go in. There's a sign on the door that says don't go in. Anyway, it's being fixed next week when we've got like 12 people coming to the arena. I was like, 12 people? They can crap in my hands. I'll carry it outside. That's nothing.
It's a stress. At 12 people, it's good. It's a beta test. It's a beta test of the bog.
Yeah, the bog beta test. Anyway, so that's Nathan. But Dan, how have you been? What have you been up to?
I've been good. I've just been hustling my little way through freelancing because we're still waiting for those strikes to get resolved, which is, that's just the way that things are. It hurts my little soul, but at the same time, folks deserve to be paid fairly for their efforts, and they deserve to be able to make a living. So I'm also not going to give. I'm not against anybody who is striking for good work conditions and fair pay. But what it has meant is that there's a lot of work from home. And a lot like it's a hobby renaissance for me a little bit, because my break is doing some war dollies, but this is a personal thing. Can we say personal things? Like, it's got really got not much to do with war dollies, except that I'm excited about building. Please tell me. But I've lost 25 kilos. Since,
wow.
Yeah.
I've done that. Are you looking for it or?
The thing is, it's the lower half of me. It's just gone. I woke up and I was like, oh fuck, where are my knees? No, I realized at the start of the year, I was like, oof, I've packed it on a bit. Like, I went back to see the family in Australia, and my family are beautiful human beings. And we absolutely overindulged. And then I could remember just getting a little from my brother, a little cheeky one about it. And I came back and I was like, yeah, maybe I should start to exercise a little bit more. And it's done good. So so to everybody out there who let themselves go, whether it was hobby, like not doing enough hobby, or painting or building or playing, or maybe the other side as well, like maybe you hit the beers so hard that the beers hit you back around the middle, and you know what, it's fine, nothing you can't change. But I've been converting in my Warhammer.
Well, you've been converting.
Yeah.
You've been converting fat into energy is what you've been doing, Dan.
I've been converting,
like a legend.
That's it. I've been converting fat into war dollies. That's where the energy comes from. So I took steel helms and I've been bastardizing them into my beasts kind of stuff.
Fantastic.
So they're covered in filth and skull masks and all that. And my Bellacore is an old resin Bellacore, and he's going to be riding on top of a smashed penumbral engine there. So
wow.
just getting the beasties in a good place.
Wait, so it's a Beast of Chaos army themed around the cities of Sigmar. Is that what we're seeing?
Yeah. So the theme being that basically like a Bellacore kind of tempted a human crusade off the beaten path into a forest, and when they came back out, they were beastly wild men. And so that's my vibe, is my hunters of the wilds. So they're getting there. Once I finish Bellacore, all I have left to do is a big monster, and then convert up a malevolent maelstrom, and I'm good.
Wow, well done. That's an impressive
And then
hobby.
I think I've got 5.5 weeks to paint it all for an event. So
Nice.
that's where I live. I live in a muddy fall Technicolor dream at the moment,
Okay.
and my fingers are constantly glued together because I bought the wrong kind of super glue, and it's very thin, and it sets very fast, and it sets hot weirdly. I think it's called cryolite. I'm not sure. Anyway, I keep gluing my fingers together because it's so thin. It goes. I'll be holding like stuff, and I'm like not even thinking about it, and then I'll glue these like my bottom two fingers together because a drip will have run down and into that crease, and then those two fingers. Anyway, it's fine. It's good. And the beautiful thing about converting this army is that it's a Beast of Chaos army, but if I ever want it to be a Cities of Sigmar army, it's a Cities of Sigmar army as well.
That is good. That's exactly what you want. Like, legitimately, that's what you want.
Dual duties,
Yeah, dual duties. Thanks to Nubgun. But, Dan, I'm really excited to see some photos when you do finish it off. So please do keep us updated, because that sounds really exciting.
What have you been on? What have you been working on?
Well, I just want to update everyone. Nathan's not here because he's moving house this weekend. Also, he's obviously avoiding me and the toilet situation. And also, someone asked for a James Powell update. A lot of people don't know this. So James obviously was on the show all the time. Love James to pieces. James, so I think it's about time we let it out that James did go to Turkey. So a lot of people don't know this, but James did go to Turkey to get a hair transplant sorted out. So I think it's finally growing in. So we may see the return of James at some point, hoping that with a full head of hair. With a full head of hair, Dan.
The danger was it may have been growing down into the brain, and at that point it might take over him.
Yeah.
That's the real concern that you've got to have there, is that if it grows up, great. If it grows down, you end up with some kind of like hair zombie situation.
And no one wants that. No one wants that. No one wants that. So, but hopefully we'll see him return. But I just wanted to let everyone know where our co-hosts are. Nathan's moving house into his forever home, I think, is the kind of plan, Dan, which is kind of cute. Like, if we're honest. And as for hobby, I was lucky enough. I ran a one-day event on Friday. I ran a doubles event this weekend with like 40 people. It was amazing. There were loads of new people at the one-dayer, weirdly. They've never been to an event before. I think we had like 10 people, and I think like 5 of them had never been to an event before, and I was like, wicked. And there's always loads of personal responsibility there, like, got to make sure they have a good time, got to make sure they understand that it's fun, and that they can engage, and it's really cool. I kept putting chess clocks on the table. I was like, look at a chess clock, how not scary is it? Touch it, just touch it a bit. And they were like, ooh. I was like, tap it. They were like, that's fun. I was like, nice. Nice.
I think that's a big thing for me, is like, once, like, you just once you approach it, you're like, oh, this isn't scary. You're like, no, it's not scary. It's only scary if you can't play your game in an hour and a half.
Exactly.
Then it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing if you need like 2.5 hours to play your half of a game of War Dollies. Otherwise, it's a beautiful thing. It's tactile. It makes a lovely, satisfying thunk every time you press it, and you get to watch numbers go down in a linear fashion.
It's so
great.
Good. It's so good. Yeah. Well, so that was good. And then other than that, so while the Friday event was happening, I was able to just work through my steel helms. So I think I built 40 steel helms, which is nice. And I built the Warforger, and I built the Marshal. So I've built all the characters and stuff, and everything. And then I've got the cavalry to do in the future, but that's not for now, which is fun. Yeah. And then I picked myself up Hexbane's Hunters, which I'm really excited about, and I put on order. I put the Van Dents on order, and I think I'm also gonna put Gotrek on order, and I have built my Ynastra because I'm going to use her as an ally in the army as well, or Yindastra, or however you say it.
Yindastra over the Prime, you reckon?
Yes, because she makes Cities of Sigmar models wholly within 12 inches immune to battle shock, and she's quite cheap. I'm like all of these things are kind of like my list is fairly settled around like 1,600 points, so I've got like 400 points of like wiggle room. Yeah, and
is there
go on.
dog boys in it?
Dog boys are also in the wiggle room, so we're talking about the to be released Warcry Warband. Yeah, so they're in the Wiggle Room category. So my Wiggle Room category is like the Van Dents, Hexbane's Hunters, the what are they called? The Doggo Warcry band, Yanastra. There's a bunch of different stuff, and then sometimes maybe I'll like go Yanastra and the Doggo boys and drop a couple of the other units instead, which is quite fun. So looking forward to it.
It's good when you've got an army at that point.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then I know Declan in the chat earlier was telling me some really clever stuff. Like he was thinking about allying in, what's it called? Like what the Cathalar in Settlers Gain. So there's some real options. Like the kind of like after you get past the core of whatever army you want to be, whether or not it's the elf part or the human part, not the dwarf part, then there's a lot of like wiggle room on stuff to add in, which is quite exciting.
Yeah.
Like as a way to build an army, so pretty fun. So yeah, I've done that, and then I don't think I've got any like long-term plans. I've got an event. We're going to Castle, so me and Louise are going to Castle in October, and I did just confirm with the guys running Castle. So this is an event that happens in Pennsylvania every year. My friends, a lot of the guys from the Tough Cloud. So people like Noah and Joe and Jacob and all those guys. So they run this event. So they're running like this singles event there. And they were like, I was like, oh, if I come over, I guess I'll do some coverage. And they were like, okay. But there's no crew, Dan. It's just me. Right? And there's and because the venue is like limited amount of places to stay, you also can't get any more crew. So I was kind of like, right, how do I stream a game with me and maybe only one other person and never a table boss, right?
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to put some headsets on the players.
Yeah.
And then we're going to put the commentary team next to the players, like on the table, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to do an old-fashioned American-style roast.
Oh, what's he done there? Nah, that's shocking. Terrible move. Terrible move. Where'd you learn how to play Warhammer?
He's got the athleticism of a rock.
Jeez, look at that wrist action rolling those dice. My goodness, this bloke's got a dexterity of -2.
Exactly. So I think that'd be really fun. I think that's kind of the idea. We'll see whether or not it works out. Also, outside chance that either Joe or Jacob also will join me in the commentary as the roasters, which is honestly devastating. Because they're
bonus points if they're playing a game at the same time as well.
Yeah, that would be really good. That would be super good.
They're just like, it's my opponent's turn and he's rubbish, so off we go.
So yeah, looking forward to that. So that's kind of my news so far. So planning some little trips. Got some more events lined up. Put them in the calendar. Just put an event on for... oh wow, I've been doing a lot apparently. Just put an event on for... the weekend before Worlds. So Age of Sigmar Worlds has been confirmed for next year. The date has been confirmed. So I've just put a singles event here at the TSN Arena in the books. The idea is if people are traveling over from the US or Canada or Australia or anything like that anyway, maybe they'll stop off in England kind of the week before, and then we can all do some stuff, which would be good. Yeah, which I think it'd be fun. So I'll put one in. Does that sound like a good idea? Or have you only just found out there's been a date confirmed? Dan, can you hear me? Did. So that's it, Worlds. Right, let's move on to Age of Sigmar news, Dan. Huge news. Huge.
Ooh. And are you talking huge news in the size of the news or the size of the model generating the news?
Like all of it, really. Okay, so just to give someone the TLDR and then Dan, give me your thoughts. Trug, who is a Trog king, okay, who has atop him a very small Troggoth who we've nicknamed Trig.
Trig.
Trig is a top Trug, who is a Trog himself. They're all Trogs. Has just had his War Scroll announced today, and we've looked through it, and I've made a video. It's on YouTube. Go check it out. But also, they talked about the new Dawnbringers book, and they talked about the Armies of Renown. Dan, first up, what do you think of Trug?
I think Trug's amazing. I love I've got the old Troll King model, and I'm really excited to build and paint it. Just because it's a great old model and I love the vibe. I love his model. The thing I dig though, which I think is awesome, is the story behind Trug, for those who might have missed it, is he went to sleep and he woke up with this big arcane ruin thing jammed onto his back. And I just think that's like, if you want to talk about a level of like super deep sleep chilliness and like backstory lore, I just dig on that. I love that he went to sleep and then someone built an entire arcane, like obviously when it was built it was functioning and arcane and fantastic, and then it slowly fell into disrepair and then he woke up.
Well,
just rad.
So they're riffing a lot at the minute. So like the story, if we're going to be lore guys for a sec, they're riffing. Let's be lore guys. They're riffing a lot at the minute about the Astro Matrix.
Which is obviously the Matrix, but instead of Neo, it's Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Exactly.
That is the savior. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've been talking a lot about the Astro Matrix, which apparently are like points where a lot of like magical energies like converge. However, there are also ley lines that run between each point of the Astro Matrix. So obviously the Seraphon think that this is like some sort of like, old god situation, but what's really like kind of interesting about this whole kind of Astro Matrix thing is like, is it leading towards something that we're going to get in 4th edition? Is this a way of them almost establishing a map, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Like, thank you to Team Badges in the chat for resubscribing. Rob is my Astro Matrix for AOS. Thank you, that's nice.
Yep.
Like, is this them establishing a map? Is this them building like their universe out a little bit more? Is this leading up to some big calamitous event? Very interesting.
I love the idea that it's maybe a magical map,
yes,
rather than like a solid kind of thing, which I think is awesome. Like the concept of it being like, this is the magical ley lines. This is the magical map of the Mortal Realms. I think that's wicked. It's so cool because we've started to get like physical maps of a lot of them, which I really dig. I dig the realms. I think that the maps and the concepts of them, that like magic gets wild the closer you get to the edge. All of it, like, it's awesome. But I also dig that it's like, okay, so these are kind of like the physical maps of the realms, but then there's this like magical map behind it as well, like the secret highways and byways through countries like America and stuff that travelers probably wouldn't know, but the locals would know really well. I kind of dig on that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm not really sure where they're going with it, to be honest. But like, especially because like, they've introduced like resources before, like inside the game. Obviously we've had like realm stones, so that was a thing. And I don't know if anyone remembers like shard, was it called shard glass? Because we had like
shard, from Shadespire,
which was kind of again another kind of like magical resource. They've kind of like been adding this stuff in, but it's one of the first, like, we had realm gates obviously as well, so it's kind of been interesting to watch him do that. But yeah, Trug fell asleep at the nexus point of the Astro Matrix, and that's why they built the thing on top of him.
And he didn't notice. All that hammering, all those blocks going on.
Yeah, it's just didn't pay attention. Also, someone in the chat is saying, like, I guess it's like the Astronomicon that you obviously get for 40k as well. And it's shade glass. Thank you, Scriver, in the chat for pointing that out as well. So anyway, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like it. I love it. I mean, we've all, I think everybody, it's a universal understanding of, we've all fallen asleep at some point, somewhere on something, and then just like woken up and been like, oh god, like I overslept or whatnot, and a lot's changed.
Okay, time to press the call to action button. Anyone who's watching this YouTube video, please let us know in the YouTube comments where you have the worst place or the best place you've fallen asleep.
The biggest change that you've experienced while asleep. That's what I want to know. Like, you went to sleep and you woke up and you were like, I have a full beard. And it's like, yes, sir, you were in a coma. You're like, oh my god. Or like, one for me was I fell asleep and I woke up in an entirely different city. not and like I wasn't traveling at all. I was working in Italy and had a couple of beverages with some friends, fell asleep, and they all decided that we were going to go somewhere else. So they took me, put me in the car, and I barely woke up. Apparently, I kind of groggily came to, and then they were like, "Ah, check it out, we're here!" And I was like, "Oh my god, where's all
Where's
my
here?
shit?"
Where's
So
here?
yeah, it was great. They'd left my bags and all my clothes. So I was in Rome with nothing to wear. It was great.
Oh no.
It was.
But,
I had the best time. I had the best time
okay.
because I was
Did
well slept.
okay. Well, exactly. Some of the chat has just said, I don't know where I fell asleep, but I woke up in a mattress storage of an apartment building. And then Sophia says, Sophia says, I woke up naked on my friend's table with his parents standing above me. Teenage things. Okay. Angie says, I fell asleep at a train station in a city I'd never been to before. Started sleepwalking, woke up trying to open the trunk of a cab with a very confused cab driver. That is some nutty stuff. Okay. Well, there we go. So maybe Trug makes more sense than we realise.
Yeah, yeah. Has anyone fallen asleep and woken up with like tons of piercings that you don't remember? Because I feel like that's kind of on the same scale as having an entire relic built into your flesh.
Yeah, it's the same energy, isn't
Like,
it? Definitely.
I woke up and I had a Prince Albert. You're like, oh god.
Oh my god.
But
Okay,
no,
so
he's
have you seen
rad.
the
Like,
rules for him?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and what you got any thoughts? Got any thoughts about that?
I think they're weird and wonderful, and I dig it.
Okay.
Like, I kind of, I think that there are some that I'm like, oh, that's a bit odd. Like they've clearly lent heavily on it, but I kind of like it, and I'm excited to see like all Trog armies come out.
Yes. So that's the kind of thing. All right. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room. The last Harbinger's book had 4 regiments of renown, but the new Harbinger's book has got 4 armies of renown, which is a brand new thing, which they haven't explained. But it does seem like that they are a almost singular army list inside an already existing book.
Yes,
Is what they are.
which I think is going to be cool. Like I hope I don't need them to be crazy competitive, if that makes sense. Like I genuinely don't need them to. Like I think that what I'd love is for them to give you the ability to take weird, wacky, and wonderful lists and play them.
Yeah.
Like that for me would be the thing I'd kind of dig on more, rather than needing to needing them to be like hyper competitive. Like, oh well, like the Trug list is going to go 5-0, which it should, but
Yeah.
I'd just
So Orchimedes has said in the chat, Army of Renown is not really that complicated. It's absolutely brilliant in 40k. So they did do something similar in 9th edition 40k, which was universally despised. I'd just like to be really clear about that. Yeah,
good
right.
to
Like universally despised because they were either just trash or completely broken. So like because obviously like they had like it was just really insular. And it's weird, and like and I guess the real trick here, Dan, is they're making the game overly complicated and they're confusing it a bit so that they get the opportunity to redo 4th edition. Just be like, it's 4th edition, we fixed it. I can't believe we introduced Armies of Renown. We fixed it now, which kind of led me to a thought actually. War Scroll battalions, as they were back in the day in HCMR 2, they were a pretty legit way to get someone into the game, I think. And for people who don't know, it just used to be like, this battalion costs this many points, and it requires like this leader or this unit, and then these couple of other units, and you can take these extra units as well. And that was kind of like a fun element of the game, I think, for new people. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I really liked it as well because it usually gave like rules abilities to that War Scroll battalion that were particularly themey. Like I remember I always remember the dwarf one because I loved it. It let you auto pass battle shock on a 1 to 3, so that idea that your dwarves didn't run and they just go there, and sure they weren't super durable, but they were stubborn as hell. They just didn't run, and then you could easily get rerolls to battle shock. So you're like, cool, like I reroll my battle shock and on a 1, 2, 3 I don't run, but because it was like it had to be like a Warden King, a Rune Lord. I think it was like your 2 or 3 units of battle line, and then some Iron Breakers and some Iron Drakes or something like that. Your army was kind of like there was this core of your army that was put together, and then it was about what you put around the outside of it. I really liked those. So I don't mind the idea of Armies of Renown coming out. I really hope that they find some cool flavor from them. My biggest the thing I maybe hesitate with the most about it is that when you start to get sub factions and special armies and things that are across White Dwarves and specialist books and unique campaigns, and then all the other, digital downloads and stuff like that, it makes it very hard for, say you come up against that army at a tournament, for you as a player to have access to your opponent's rules or even know where they're from. And that sometimes for me gets a little bit scattered. If someone's like, oh yeah, so I'm playing with these rules, the Settlers Gain rules, and you're like, they what the hell are they from? They're like, okay, so they were from this book in this subsect, and then they were given more stuff in this White Dwarf. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah. It's really hard to check stuff as well. But obviously it's just a mess so that you can fix the mess. But now, so we're going to have 4 Armies of Renown. There's going to be obviously the Trog one, Trogs. Also, Dan, you're literally a creative writer. You work inside of like this sphere. Like someone comes up to you like, hey, I've got the King of the Trogs. You're like, amazing. Yep. What's he called? And then someone pitches Trug. Like,
I'd be like, okay, I see what you did there. You took a single vowel and you replaced it with a vowel that makes the closest sound to that vowel. And I see what you were going for was a playful theme. But you could call this whatever you want in the whole wide world. Like, this is your opportunity to call him like Peas Blossom or Mustard Seed or like whatever the heck you want. Now, I love Trug. I love Trug the Trog. But Trug the Trog, to me, sounds like he came straight out of a Bob the Builder episode. I think the thing is the old Troll King was Throg.
Throg.
Throg the Troll King sounds rad, because and I see what you're doing. It's like Troll, Throg. Like, you can see like his brain would like label himself like that. I get that. However, I definitely was like, we've taken Throg, and that's obviously like where the word Trog has come from, Throg to Trog. So I'm just like, you could have maybe just stepped a little bit outside. But bless him, you know what? Work smarter, not harder. Someone was like, I'm paid by the fucking hour. Delete the O, replace it with a U. Job done.
You've smashed that, Terry. Well done. 10 points. Cup of tea. Yeah. Get home. Which is good. Okay, so unfortunately, a bit unenthusiastic. So we're gonna get Trogs. Okay, perfect. Trogs. And then there's going to be a KO one, a Gargant one, and then a Kharadron Overlords one. And we don't know what the power level of these things are going to be. The problem is they probably are very resistant to changes as well in many ways because of how it's constructed, which is going to be a bit of a shame. But it's interesting to see because we're basically adding a new paradigm into the game. A paradigm they haven't done previously. I said this already. I'm not too keen about something that's so linear. Like you saw this in 40k. People just run the same linear army as the same other linear army. It's pretty dull. Also, they were either dumb busted or they weren't. Which was like the Drukhari one lasted for 9 months. Like, it was like cool.
And I remember as well, I think the Drukhari one was the one where you kept seeing like the finals of 40k streamed events with identical armies facing off against each other, and just
I think that was Harlequins for a while.
Harlequins, and it was like identical armies just hiding behind terrain, trying to get the first roll for first turn, and that was basically the game.
It was basically it was super cool, real good. Anyway, so that'll be interesting. So we got that on the horizon. Also, and then Dan, I've had no one to talk to about this, but this is super crazy. There's an ironjawz Battle Tome supplement coming out for free this week, right? And that's so weird. Like,
hope for the human race. Hope for the human race.
In what way?
Well, a Games Workshop releasing a supplement for free.
Yeah, but Dan, it's so, like, because so that supplement for Ironjawz is in the Dawnbringers book. Trug is in the Dawnbringers book. So they gave us a free war scroll from the upcoming book. They gave us the actual thing for the Ironjawz from that book. And you're like, what is happening? Like, are you like, if they just did, well, this is the Ironjawz supplement, it's not in any upcoming books, I'd be like, that makes sense. Okay, not much, because Games Workshop have never done it before, but I was like, that makes sense, because you just want to sell the models. So I understand. Yeah. But now I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Okay, right? I think I figured it out, Rob. They know what Ironjawz players are like. They can't read a book. Like, they know that if they put that supplement only in that book, the Ironjawz players won't read it. They'll be threatened by all the words. And yes, there's pictures, but there's not that many of them. So they know that they need to find another way. And so they're like, it's not even a book. It's a supplement. It's a piece of a book. You can get through a piece of a book. And Ironjawz players are like, yes, I can, or I can have someone read it to me like a bedtime story. And like, to be honest, I feel like I'm being romanced a little bit. They're like, hey, do you want some free rules? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's prettier than how Wikipedia does it. So, like, let's go. Let's give me it. So I'm kind of, I'm keen. I'm keen to see it. Keen to see how it goes.
I think just structurally it's really weird. Like, it's like, I'm like, what's happening? It's like someone in the chat's like, because the 4th edition is next year, but they're going to sell us that Flesh Eater Corpse Battle Tome at Christmas or whenever it's coming out. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're going to sell that 6 months left to go on the edition. So, like, go on.
Yeah, I wonder if as well, it could be... So remember, like, a lot of people, myself, yourself included, had a lot to say about Lumineth. When Lumineth came out, and then 6 months later, their army range and their book was expanded in a campaign book. And then they re-released the book as well. But the original stuff didn't have a rules change, and they kind of got dragged for that. And I wonder if what this is they're like, okay, so the existing Ironjawz rules haven't changed much, and we saw how poorly this went for us last time. So you can buy the campaign book and get the campaign book, but for Ironjawz players that already have the book, we'll just do the supplement rather than a full book re-release.
Yes, it's really weird. I'd love to know what, again, call to action. If you are watching this video and you would like to, I'd like to know what your thoughts are, because it feels like something's gone wrong. Something's happened. Dave in the chat thinks that they've screwed up the book order, so there's only like 8 copies of this book available, which I kind of feel is the vibe. So I'm not really sure. Like, and we'll see. And especially based after the 40k app last week, where the 40k app went to, like, Bosch, you have to pay for the app if you want the rules. If even you can't even look at data sheets of, like, so Tyranids now, because their codex is out. If you want to look at the Tyranid data sheets, you have to buy the book in the app. You can't do it any other way. So it feels like there's 2 different things happening at the same time, and this is super weird. Anyway, so, and then we got the Battle Scroll later in the week. Age of Sigmar, literally all guns blazing.
You know what, Rob? This is the romance stream, and I am so hot under the collar. Like, Games Workshop is just like, hey, come in here. Hey, let me get you this drink. And I'm like, oh, this drink tastes like a free supplement. They're like, yeah, damn right it is. Hey, wait, do you want to? Hey, try this. And I'm like, they're like pushing like a canapé or something into my mouth. I'm like, oh, what's this? And they're like, that's the Trug War Scroll. I'm like, oh, damn, that's tasty. And then they're like, hey, you know what we've got for mains? And I'm like, tell me what we've got for mains. They're like, Battle Scroll. I'm like, oh fuck, just take me home now.
Let's go. So
it's a big week.
This could be a show on the things we'd like to see from the Battle Scroll, but, like, I don't care. We're not going to do that. We're going to do something way more fun than that. So it's a big week for Warhammies. That's all I've got to say. So in betwixt all of this, though, Dan, to take us onto the main subject of today's show, and again, call to action, please let us know in the comments which of the things you're most excited about. That would be great. So, yeah, this week, The underlying problem is going to be, Dan, the meta. Yeah? The most... Okay? That's going to be the problem that we're currently facing. Okay?
Yeah.
Because... and there's an underlying problem. And, even though we've got a back scroll upcoming, do you know what my problem with the meta is? That's my first question. And chat, do you know what my problem with the meta is? How you feeling about it? Take a punt.
Mine is I'll guess from mine, and because I wonder if yours is going to be the same. The win rate percentage of the best performing armies is staggering, and the construction of the armies achieving those win rates is very, very identical and similar.
No, but like that's cool. That's a legit.
Oh.
That's a legit.
Yeah.
That's a legit like problem, but it's a symptom, and not the cause.
Oh yeah, okay.
So like,
yeah, I'm all about treat the sickness, not the symptom. Yeah,
exactly. So we talked about this last week, and this is what today's show is going to be about, right? So let's cast our minds back to the last Battle Scroll update. Last Battle Scroll update, what we had, most importantly, we had a couple of different new battle tactics added to the Uruk War Clans book. So we got one for Cruel Boys and we got one for ironjawz. But if you're playing Big War, you're able to do both. And Big War has really kind of escalated its representation, but most importantly, its win rate, which to fans of Uruks everywhere is like, yes, Rob, yeah, let's go. Even Cruel Boys the other day, shout out to Brandon, Jacob Brandon, going 7-1 at Nova. Well, that was last week. So, but that's not really the that's again a kind of a symptom and not a problem, because you would say, hey Dan, hey Rob, it's really cool, Cruel Boys are doing really well, and I agree with you, okay. But what we've got now, and since last week to this week, we have like I've been at several events, so like this has been a consistent like thing that I've seen constantly. So, and obviously I do the stat show as well. What's happening is you don't have to engage with your opponent to complete battle tactics. Like the most efficient, and you'll hear this a lot from tournament gamers, people who play other games types. The less I have to engage with my opponent in any way, or the less I have to roll a dice, the easier path to victory I have. Right? That's pretty common.
Yeah.
But so a lot of these battle tactics are not requiring you to engage with your opponent. A good example would be with ironjawz. You've got to have 2 ironjawz units in the middle of the board. Okay.
Well, I mean, even the season ones, intimidate invaders. Just yes, you've got to have them outside of your deployment zone, but that's easy. The one where you've just got to have 3 units at a different board edge, 2 of them outside of your deployment zone. Like there are so many that are like, hey, just be spread out. And you're like, okay, do I have to be fighting? And I think one thing I don't like is that there's a number of them that are like, at least through Beasts of Chaos and more tribes that I've experienced, that are like have units in combat at the end of the turn, or have units in combat at the end of the combat phase, or like you've got armies that have impact hits. And so kind of like a lot of them want to clear stuff off before, like in impact hits before combat. And they're like, yeah, but you only get your battle tactics if they're still there. So you're like, so I need to go into combats I can't win to get it. I actually like that because it's hard. But the problem is, why would I do that one and risk leaving my units in combat with my opponent? Because I could kill them. I could have a great round of combat and kill the entire unit. They could have a great round and kill my unit. But why would I risk that when I've got one that's like, just move outside of your deployment zone?
Yes, or as Nodon's talking in the chat, just cast a spell. Like, just casting a spell. And so let's talk about a couple of things first, like, before we talk about this. So what we're talking about is there is a bevy, and if we cast our minds back to 3 years ago where Rob on the Honest Wargamer was like, as soon as you do book tactics, like happened in 40k, what you're going to happen is you're going to have armies that have good tactics and armies that don't have good tactics, and therefore you're going to get a imbalance in the army. There we go, right? So book tactics are bad, which is why we initially banned them at the beginning. Other people on other shows have already been through all of the tactics in the world to discuss them. We don't need to do that again. That's not the important part. So the book tactics and grand strategies I'm obviously thrown in here are imbalanced. But Dan, I don't think that's my biggest, and that's a fact. That's not like an opinion, but that's not my biggest issue. My biggest issue is that then you're not doing a battle. So I'll give you a good example. So I taught someone to play Age of Sigmar the other day. I think I told you this. And I thought one of the things, one of the things that I was showing them, I was like, okay, I'm going to score 2 victory points. Like this battle, I've created a victory from. And they're like, how? And I'm like, I'm going to cast a spell. They're like, wow, okay. I'm out of range. Cool. You can't stop me. Oh, amazing. And then they were like, okay, my turn, because it was their first ever game. They're like, I too will cast a spell. And I was like, okay, I stopped you because I'm in range. And then they were like, oh. And and they were yet to move a model. And I was like, guess what? You're losing. And they were like, what? They were like, what the fuck? How can I be losing this battle? Yeah. If that makes sense. So, you know, like very much like the Beast of Chaos, like, you know, 2 units get into cover. Like, it kind of makes sense narratively. I'm on board with it. But, like, is that like a battle?
Well, or it's like we've seen, and I haven't seen the stats for this week yet, but Daughters of Cain have been doing great. But that's because in an edition where the tactics are more challenging in
the GHB,
the General's Handbook, they have 5 that they can nail. Like so they I mean not, you know,
but also
time, but like
you're absolutely right, Dan, but there's also something we should add on to that. They can do 5 tactics where they never have to engage the opponent in battle. Yeah. So like battle tactics is fairly ironic because like, you know, because you're absolutely right. Like several of their battle tactics are really easy. Then the ones that are in the GHB, which they also want to do, don't require them to actually be in a battle. So it feels weird to me personally. And I feel like this is a systemic problem. And it moves on to grand strategies as well, where some people are just like, because you can't, again, I can't engage. Your grand strategy of Tzeentch is to have 2 dice on a 9. So I just literally can't engage with you, and therefore you have won. Is crazy to me.
KO as well. Like, what's your thing? Everyone get out of a boat. You're like, okay, sick. What's your one this time? Everyone get into a boat. Cool. Is there anything I can do to stop that? Oh, heavens no.
But also, it doesn't feel like a battle, right? I think that's the crime. That's the crime. Is it doesn't feel like you're doing it, like it's not kill a general. It's not kill a monster.
I think last season was great because there were a lot, like even what was it? You used to tunnel master into cunning maneuver. Cunning maneuver, you had to pick the objective outside of your deployment zone, and I think it had to be under your opponent's control or something like that, like or something along those lines. Like you had to telegraph your plan. So your opponent, through say a redeploy or something, they could potentially try to counter that. But at the very least, you scored that by playing for an objective. You didn't score that by being like, oh, what is it? Tunnel Master, cunning maneuver. What do you have to do? Just move 30 inches.
Exactly. Like, so like, and some of them are like more interactive, like, you know, charge in, retreat, and some other stuff. But especially the book tactics feel really, really, really bad. And you know, that's kind of like, I think I've made the point and the argument. And again, call to action. Pew, 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 pew. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, obviously. But like, it's really unengaging. That's the bit that kind of is now at this stage throwing me. Because also tournament gamers, because they are very smart and they also think about it, is they are building armies that are not ever playing with their opponent. And it's what 40k used to be. They'd be like, oh, I've done teleport homers. Excuse me. I'm in 4 table quarters. You're like, okay. Are you going to fight those guys? They're like, fuck no. Why would I do that? Like, I'm like, it's a war game. Like, do a war. Yeah. Right? And
can you have a war, please?
Can you do it? Like I mean, ultimately, I feel like it should be a game like chess. You can't do anything but take the other people's pieces, right? Like, and so like there's this separation of what feels like it should be a battle And then what I'm seeing on, like, especially top table, because top table players are doing it better than anyone else, is they're just not fucking doing anything. Like when I did coverage a couple of weeks ago of the Swedish event, you know, it was just two armies stood staring at each other. They were like, "We don't need to fight." You're like, "Why?" It's like, "Because I keep scoring battle tactics." Like, I just stood here, like, and that's so boring, Dan.
Yeah, well, it's the stand on circles. What are you going to do? I'm going to score 5 battle tactics and my grand strat, and I know my opponent can't score one in their 4th turn, or like I've positioned it so that they won't be able to get one in their 4th turn, so I'm going to win the game. You're like, okay, but what if they? And it's like, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing they can do, and they lose. So I hate that. And I think that's something that is going to be exacerbated come the new battle scroll. So the new battle scroll will definitely give the underperforming armies some easy to achieve battle tactics, like we saw last time. It does an incredible job of improving the win rate, and I agree. I super agree that like if all you want to do is do numbers, it improves the win rate. But what I really want is an army to do better in a battle. And I would like to play a battle game. That seems fair. And so I don't really know what the solution is. I know the solution is they're just going to do a new edition anyway, so like this is all moot. But I wanted to express it because I think it's a really fair concern. Like, and because it also must feel really, really weird to new people or even casual people to be like, what happened? Well, it's like, well, he was playing Big War. You're like, okay, the army based on generating points, based on how fucking furious the orcs are in it. They're like, They're like, what did he do? He's like, well, he's basically stood on a line until turn 3, and then didn't do it much, and then that was the end of the game. You're like, what did you just tell me? Feels weird, right? I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or like Soulblight, when people are like, so how does Soulblight play? And it's like they move 120 zombies onto the objectives, and you're like, okay, and they're like, no, that's it, we're done.
Well, see, I don't mind that because that's a battle. Like what you're saying is can you kill? Like no one can kill all of those zombies. But what they're saying is, like, if I lose having chewed through a bajillion zombies, at least I'll be like, at least my Uruks fought someone.
Yeah, I guess. I think for me, no, actually, yeah, you're right. My problem with Soulblight is different. I don't mind them being able to bring models back to units. I don't mind them being able to bring units back from the dead. I don't like both. Yeah. Like when they can do both, that's for me where it's like, oh, this is just fucked. But yeah, you are right. Like at least if they're moving on to objective, you've got to smash your way through them.
And so let's end this bitching session because no one likes that.
Yeah.
And let's rethink this, Dan. Because if we're not playing a war game, and if we're playing a game where you don't do anything but say you've achieved some sort of mythical quest and got 2 victory points, why isn't it way more cool or way more sexy? That's what I'm thinking.
Yep. And Rob, how do we make it more sexy?
Well, I think what we should do live from the Honest Wargamer and hosted on thehonestwargamer.com later in the week is we should come up with some romance battle tactics. I think there's not, like, because if we're not going to play a war game, Dan, we should play a love game.
Rob, and here's the thing, right? If you're, this is a battle game, but it's also, it's kind of an RPG. Age of Sigmar is kind of a role-playing game. You're playing the role of a general, and you're directing your armies. And what is the most important part of an RPG? And it's not the role-playing; it's the romanceable NPCs.
Every time. That's the important part.
Every time. Like people playing Baldur's Gate, I guarantee, I defy the chat and anyone watching this who jumps into Baldur's Gate or Skyrim, maybe not Skyrim, but any game with companions and doesn't like have a dirty shame Google being like, which NPCs are romanceable? Like I'm certain you've all done it. And if you're in the chat and you say you're not, I'm looking at a liar because there's no one does it. So all we need to do is we need to figure out not who in a game of War Dollies is romanceable, but how in a game of War Dollies they're romanceable. Because the answer is they all are. They all are. Some people, they like bold, they like brash. They want someone who's just going to swing by and be like, hey, I'm out the front of your house. We are going to climb a mountain. And I'm like, yeah, Gordrak, you take me, daddy. And then some people want someone who they can fix, like the Cathalar, who's broken on the inside and won't stop crying.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's fine.
That's dark.
We just need
You've
to figure
gone
out
dark there.
how. We just need to figure out how they're romanceable, not who is romanceable.
Okay. So I think what we should try to do, chat, and also you, Dan, is we should try to work out how to come up with 8 battle tactics based on romance. Because that's what we need. Because obviously Baldur's Gate incredibly successful because ultimately you can bang someone. Like, that's the important.
And yeah, like
I mean, there are other reasons it's successful, but
Mind Flayer sex is largely one of them, I think.
I think maybe the main, like, but yeah, again, yeah. So, okay, so we need 8 battle tactics, chat. Okay, and Dan already gave us a good idea for one, a bit of inspiration. Dan, you said where to go on a date. So I like the idea. One of the battle tactics is you must claim a terrain feature, get wholly within 3 inches, roll a 3+. So it's a tactic that's got a roll on it, which is a bit risky, and then you have made that feature, that terrain feature, has to be outside your deployment, obviously, but not in the enemy territory, because it's like a Romeo, kind of like a Capulets thing. Like, you want it to be in no man's land, I'm assuming.
Yeah, for sure.
So piece of terrain, wholly outside of your territory, outside the enemy territory. Or do you want it to be able to be inside the enemy territory? Is this like a...
No, okay, so...
Go on, left you.
I don't mind outside, but I think the specification is it needs to be claimed by your hero, and there needs to be an enemy hero within 9 inches. Because you're basically
you're gonna romance
up,
them.
You're setting up the picnic. You're setting up the date. Like, you're sprinkling rose petals over the bed, and then you're going, like, give them the come hither eyes. You're like, nice. Get over here.
Okay, I love that. So, just any piece of terrain outside of your territory, and then wholly within 9 inches of an enemy hero. Not wholly within, just within 9 inches of an enemy hero.
Within. Yeah,
within.
Because you could have an Andorian Locust trying to seduce a Frost Lord on Stonehorn. Like, you could have that. He's a dog guy. He's got a pet. Come on.
Just a shaman walks up to the bit of terrain 3+. That Stonehorn is now on a date with me in this piece of terrain. Okay.
I don't think you got to roll for it, Rob, because I don't want to shame. I don't. Want
you got to roll. Okay, 2+.
Because here's the thing, right? I don't want to shame them for trying. This isn't an aggressive romance. This is they're like setting up a beautiful date. So I don't want them to feel like they could fail in their attempt at romance. Okay. So yeah, I think 2+ is good. 2+ is good.
Okay, so 2+. All right, so that's the first one. That's great. We need to write this down. Okay, first one, great. So I like what you said there about, so like, we've got how to date someone. So that's like basically picking a place. That's how to date someone. I like the idea of like of changing someone's mind. So how about this? The second one. We need some names for these as well. So call to action, please name them. How about the idea that you get into combat with an enemy hero? Are we saying it's only heroes? That makes sense. It's like a very it's hero focused.
Rob, there's a joke in here about a hero going into a unit of 20 or more. And I don't want to make it.
Let's make it.
I don't want to make
That's
it.
what we're here for. That's the whole point.
Okay, Rob. He like then all we I don't. Oh God, I don't know what the title is, but it's if an unmounted hero, which is just a terrifying start. If an unmounted hero ends its turn within 3 inches of a unit that has 20 or more models.
What have they got to do?
We call it the shag carpet.
And they're just there at the end. They're there at the end.
Because they're in combat, they're obviously going to be swinging away, but they have to end that turn engaged with a unit that still has 20 or more models.
Perfect. I'd like to just to help us create another tactic really easy. I'd like to repeat that battle tactic, same thing, but a unit of 10 engages with another unit of 10, and they're there at the end of the combat phase.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
So it's like they've all got together, they've had a good fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The social. It's a dance party.
They've had a dance party.
Yep,
Yeah,
they've
and
paired
then
off.
they got to be there at the end. Okay, that's good. I like that. That's really fun. Okay,
Rob, I've got
go on.
another one.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's not the size, it's how you use it. Would be the title.
Okay, okay,
And
I'm
what
ready.
it is if you choose a hero, something with the hero keyword. If it has the monster keyword, it needs to end the turn within 3 inches of a locus, an Andorian locus. And if it doesn't have the monster keyword, it needs to end the turn within 3 inches of an enemy unit with the monster keyword. So it's either about your biggin ending with a romantic embrace of a little un, or a little un ending the romantic embrace of a biggin.
Oh,
Mostly inspired by the concept of the War Hulk, the
oh,
second generation War Hulk.
I thought you were going kind of like Shrek vibes with like Donkey and Dragon.
Yeah, basically, like what it is a small hero needs to end the turn within range of a big hero, or vice versa.
Okay, all right. I
Because
like that.
obviously it didn't work. If you go in against the monster and the monster kills you, then the size did matter.
Okay,
The size killed you. You didn't survive. But if you go in and you survive, that's romance, baby. That's love.
that's love. That's just nothing but love.
That's it.
All right, I've got one. I think it'll work. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
So, a hero unit that has charged must be a charge this turn. Completes a charge into an enemy hero. Doesn't matter what size. Okay. And then gives up all of its attacks in its activation. Yeah. But gains +1 to save. But then must be in combat at the end of that combat phase. So the idea is that the hero charges into the other hero in a declaration of love. You know, goes down on one knee, misses the swings over the top of the head, and as long as they're there at the end, they fuck.
Good. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. It feels like I don't know, an old some Egyptian wedding or something like that, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna make you work for it, boy. Like if you want this.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, like I'm here, but you got to take it from me. Yeah, exactly. That's. I mean, we're doing pretty well. We're flying through these. That's like 5 already. I thought this would be tough.
Okay, so
I thought this
Rob,
would be tough.
we need a Coyote Ugly version. Like we need one where it's just like, this was a terrible mistake.
Like in what way?
I don't, like as in you went out, you had a few too many drinks, and then you both wake up and you're like, we shouldn't have done this. This was bad.
I'm not really sure. We've done something with monsters. Someone in the chat has suggested failed casting spell on an opponent, whispering sweet nothings. I quite like that idea as well. Into the sunset. This is from Dritz. Pick an enemy unmounted hero within 6 inches and roll 2d6 in the hero save. If you beat their wounds characteristic, remove both from the battlefield. Must be a mounted hero. You just like get on their horse and go. Like you like go off together into the night. Oh my god, I love that. That's so good. You and me, baby.
That's great.
We just go.
I'd like that.
Like you lose your hero, they lose their. That's amazing. That's in. That's so in. I think.
Yeah. I've got one, and the title would be like, it's been a while.
Okay.
And it's, you get it if a character hasn't made a move or a charge action in 3 turns, and they're just staring at the opponent's characters from across the battlefield, just thirsty.
Well, no. Let's make it more like romantic.
It's got to be romantic.
Maybe they're just like pick an enemy hero. Yeah. Like this is worth like 6 VP. This is like breaking the battlefield battle. Yeah, this is breaking the battle tactic mold. Pick an enemy hero.
Yeah.
Your character can't move or make any actions for the rest of the battle. But if that enemy hero ends up in combat with your hero at any point, 10 VP.
No, Rob, that's a grand strat. It's a grand strat.
Oh my god, that is a grand strat. Yeah, okay.
It's a romantic grand strat. It's like at the start, you pick an enemy hero, and if at any point in the battle they end up within 3 inches of your hero, you fail the grand strat.
yeah, that's good. That's good. Like the Stalker's Grand Strat or something. That's really good. Kenny's come up with a great one in the chat.
Yeah,
you need the love potion.
Yeah.
Pick a hero with an artifact of power.
Ooh.
Replace that artifact with this potion for the rest of the battle. Like you go up to like on a 2+. Like, oh, no artifact for you. It's now a love potion. -1 to hit and wound against this hero for the rest of the battle. That sounds like an artifact.
I love it.
Though.
I want to build on it.
Artifact. It's not a battle tactic, is it?
I want to build on it. It's not an artifact. It's not an artifact that you swap with your opponent. It's one that you use within 6 inches of them. And after that point, that unit can never end a move further away from your character than they started it.
That feels like it's a spell. I feel like we're going into the romanceable spell territory now, which is pretty rough.
True.
Like I think the other one sounds like an artifact as well. I like Moose Pluses. Unrequited love. You must remain within 6 inches of an enemy hero for 3 turns and do nothing. But then that also sounds like a grand strat. That's multiple turns, right? PDA must end the turn within 3 inches of an enemy hero and a unit of at least 10 models. Oh, like they're watching. No. No. Let's buff that up. Like this strat's called the Wingman strat. This is a hero of yours and a unit of 10 or more models of yours must charge into. You must complete a charge with your hero into their hero and your unit into their unit. So it's like they've wingmanned out. They've taken off the the girl gang that are accompanying.
So
that sounds dark.
I've got
isolate and attack.
Yeah, I call it the tripod.
Okay.
So what it is contest an objective held by an opponent's hero with 2 of your heroes.
2 of your heroes.
So they go in there. Maybe they're in a bit of a slump and they're looking to spice things up. Who knows? But what was 1 alone becomes 3 together.
So uncomfortable. I don't like that at all. It's so good. Okay. What's it? Wait, someone said, remember Festus the Leech Lord rules from Warhammer Fantasy. He would literally attack by jamming a potion down your enemy's throat. Make this now into an equivalent for Luckstone. Or automatically change 1 roll to make it so they run Leveling Charms in Embrace. That would be really good as well. I think that would be good. I think we've done quite well there already.
Are we designing a battle pack?
No, because we're not
come up with 3 artifacts, 3.
No. Oh, Dan's gone. 1 second. What you were saying, Dan, was are we designing a battle pack? The romance battle pack? No, but we could. And I think what I wanted to try and point out is that there are loads of opportunities, and we will write these up and we'll put these out, and I'll over-engineer some sort of pack later in the week, which will look way too fancy and will confuse people. So I'll do that later in the week. And me and Dan,
you're going to run the romance. You're going to run a romance event, right?
Valentine's weekend.
Oh.
But what I wanted to really showcase was that if we really wanted to have a bunch of battle tactics that was super fun, you could actually write a bunch that are engaging around like a singular theme. That would be like fun, and you could do some really fun stuff with it, right? You could make one about cooking. I don't give a fuck. Really, like you could do some really fun and weird shit. And again, please do link in the comments of this YouTube video, like all of the crazy shit you've decided to come up with. And getting in and out of boats and casting a spell and not summoning stuff and casting, like, some of it just doesn't. It feels like an RPG, and it doesn't feel like a war game.
Yeah.
And I think Age of Sigmar really needs to determine what it wants to be in many ways.
Yeah.
And I think we've done a good job of kind of showcasing that. And it's because if it's an RPG, it's incredibly fucking boring. Like, and not in any way cool. Like, if you were going to do an RPG, Dan, like, I know how creative you are, Dan.
Yeah.
If you were going to do an RPG for battle tactics, they would be wicked fun. Yeah.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's interactivity.
Yes.
Like, that's what it is.
Thank you.
It's not even even if it doesn't have to, and when I say interactivity, that doesn't mean combat, that doesn't mean killing. That I like, again, the example of the objective ones from last season, where it was like take an objective controlled by your opponent or something like that. Now that probably means combat. It probably means maybe you're shooting the unit off and moving yours on, but it could also just mean moving in and out, scoring them. It could mean charging with a unit that can retreat instead of attacking to pull out and hold enough models on objectives. But ultimately, it's interactive with your opponent.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that is kind of missing from like for me, a lot of the time in games, my first turn battle tactic is cast a spell, because I'll deploy something outside of range, like outside of 30, and I'll just go, cool, yeah, I'm just going to cast Mystic Shield. That's it. We're good. We're done. Sick.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
cool.
and that's
cool.
a battle tactic.
Yeah, cool. High five. Yeah. Absolutely non-interactive. Like, and do you know what? They, again, credit to Games Workshop, they did a good job in this, kind of like edition of Age of Sigmar in creating more interactivity. All out defense, stand and shoot, monstrous actions, heroic actions. Like, a lot of that stuff has been kind of like, they understand that interactivity creates better games. They and they really did like give with one hand and take with the other. Like with Sinesh, they were like, here's this dice mechanic where you get to constantly ask your opponent questions. And you're like, wow, that's really cool. I love that. That's really interactive. Yeah. And they're like, your grand strategy, don't summon. And you're like, that's not interactive. That sucks.
But also, this is a fundamental part of a demon army, being able to summon demons from the warp to add to your missing stuff. And they're like, but, hey, fun fact, you only get these extra points to win the game if you don't take advantage of that awesome ability your army has. And you're like, oh, that's a shame. That's really sad that you're taking away this cool thing.
Yeah, it's really, really rubbish. So, like, I hope that's been kind of like an interesting thought thing for people. Like, I don't think there's many people other than the tournament degens like me who spend this much time like kind of thinking about the game system structurally, and I'm not 100% certain what the solution is. And there's a really good kind of meta conversation beyond that. Like, oh, okay, it all becomes about the primary. Worlds will be really interesting because in a team format, it's all about differential like score differences. But if everyone in a very normal battle plan, you can score 5 battle tactics in a grand strategy, and then so that is 2 points for each one, so that's a total of 10. Grand strategy makes it 13, and then when you hold objectives, you are holding 1 or 2, so those are worth 2 points each, or you're holding more. So let's say you never hold more. I'm scoring 23 points without ever engaging with my opponent. And then the game becomes about those last 5 points. And that's a bit too much devil in the detail for a war for me, and I think it might make Worlds very, very boring. We're moving towards the old Warhammer Fantasy. I sit in a corner, you sit in a corner, we shoot each other. There's 1 point difference. And that's such a bad way for a game to happen, I think. So it'd be interesting.
I mean, look, but the example is perfect here. Like, just off of the theme of romance, like Age of Sigmar romance, we came up with yes, we were joking around. Those were awesome battle tactics. They're great interactive battle tactics. If you played a game, I can see people sitting there and being like, okay, so I really want to go for, it's not the size, it's how you use it. But can I get my Warden King tough enough to handle your Mutalith Vortex Beast?
Yeah, I really like this Ziggurat in the middle of the board. I really do think that I'll be able to get my Cathalar to romance Archeon on it. It's a 2+ though. What if I don't roll? What if I roll a 1 and Archeon just doesn't like it as a venue? That's a shame. Like, that's hilarious on tabletop stuff.
It's hilarious, but it's also tactical. You're strategically talking about romancing Archeon with a Cathalar. Like, just chef's kiss, that's the happy place.
That's what you want to be. So, I think do an RPG or do a war game, but don't do the others. And if it was going to be me, if I'm 100% honest, Dan, I think some people will say this would get a little dull, but I just have the same 5 to 8 battle tactics. Kill a general. Kill the general, kill a wizard, kill a monster, kill a battle line unit. It's a war at the end of the day, and you're like, you'll get Rob, you'll just be getting points for doing what you do anyway. I'm like, yeah, but better that you get points for killing stuff, which is what you're doing anyway, than you get points for getting in and out of a boat. That's so weird. It's a weird game. It's
also the question is, can my opponent stop it? I know if you choose kill the general, I go, sweet, best day ever, and I'm saving a command point for a redeploy, and I'm saving a command point for all-out defense. I'm thinking about how I keep my general alive.
Yeah.
Because that's what you've told. I know that's your thing. Whereas when you're like, what's your battle tactic? My battle tactic is be at the edge of the board. I'm like, cool. So there's no interactivity there. And you're like, none whatsoever, my guy. You're like, rad, that's what I came here to do, is to stand on opposite sides of a board, roll dice, and never interact with you.
Yeah, and Dr. Demento, thanks for resubscribing. And to kind of answer, Dave pointed out in the chat, I was lucky enough to have the founder of Age of Sigmar at my event this weekend, Mo. Shout out to Mo. Pour one out to the legend that is. And Mo nailed it in Age of Sigmar 0. So this is Mo Camp. So for people who don't know what I'm talking about, back in the old days, back in the beginning of Age of Sigmar, Mo basically had hold objectives, and then he had a bunch of secondaries. But they felt right to me, Dan. That I think if this is me remembering off the top of my head, so there was kill the enemy general, keep your general alive. Okay, so now that's already kind of interesting, like you were saying, because that really, one of the things that is really true in Age of Sigmar is monstrous heroes are always a problem. So because you can give them a command trait or an artifact, or you could do some stuff you're not meant to do. So already that you're less likely to throw a Frostle and Stonehorn in, because if your general dies, you're going to give up 2 points, right? Keep your general alive, kill the enemy general. No units inside, or more units inside your territory than in their territory. More units in your territory than their units in your territory. More units in their territory than units that they have in their territory. Does that make sense? So outnumber them in your zone, outnumber them in their zone. Again, really hard to do both. So there's a bit of management there. Hold a piece of terrain by turn 4 was one of them, I think, as well. So you did it on turn 4 instead of doing it at the end, so it kind of had to be one of those things you were planning towards, which was really fun. And I don't think there was another one, which I can't remember which one it was, but it was something like that. But it was normally you do one or you fail one. And just a huge fan of those. And I still think about those. It blows my mind you don't get an award or a reward in game for killing an enemy general.
Yeah.
It's a war. It's weird. It's weird.
What happened? We took out the boss of their army, and what was the benefit? He's dead?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I actually loved old, the way they did it in old Warhammer Fantasy. Obviously, you had your banner bearer, your army banner bearer gave everyone rerolls to their leadership tests within 12 inches or whatever, and then your general gave their leadership within everyone to 12 inches. So you had these bubble buffs. But the other thing, the old way, and I wish Soulblight would embrace this, the old way, Undead would have one character that was responsible for magically keeping all the summonable stuff in the army alive, all the zombies, all the skeletons. And if that necromancer or vampire died, the army started to crumble around them as the magic holding everything together fell apart. That was such a great, that was so themey. The idea that the armies of the dead would never run away, but they would slowly lose the magic binding them together. That was such a cool story and gameplay element.
Yeah, so Dave has just reminded me what one of the other ones was. It was you got a point for killing the most expensive unit in your opponent's army, and a point for keeping your most expensive unit alive, which again is the most elegant Death Star solution you can ever find.
Yeah.
You're okay, how do we stop Death Stars? And you're cool, make it so that if they die, you lose points. And you're my God, how did you do that? And again, you're doing a war. You're doing a war in that process. And
Yeah.
like and I think that that's really good because I think 40k feels perfunctionary. Like it feels like all you're doing in 40k is like ticking a checklist, and I feel like Age of Sigmar's getting more towards that. And I feel like not doing that and instead doing a battle is what we should go back to. And at this point, where are we? It's September. Age of Sigmar 4 has been written. There's nothing that
Yep.
we can do about that. Like it's gone. So maybe Age of Sigmar 5, but like I think that's my gripe, Dan. Thanks for going on me with this journey. I appreciate it loads.
Rob, you don't have to thank me on going on a romantical journey with you through the mortal realms. Like that's a good Monday for me. That's a great Monday. I'm gonna leave here. I'm already looking at my Bellacore over there, being like, "Baby, you're wearing nothing but a loincloth. Stop looking at me with your weird skull eyes like that."
Just Flesh Eater guys being like, we are not Flesh Eater, sorry, Fire Slayers being like, we're almost already completely naked. Like, let's go.
And Rob, you went Flesh Eaters. I'm gonna go with you on Flesh Eaters. Who is more delusional than someone in love? Like they're running around. They're like, what are we doing? We're not killing, we're loving. Every time I jump on top of someone and tackle them, yes, in real life I'm ripping their throats out. But to me, it's just a really big hickey.
Really big hickey. Really big hickey.
Really big hickey.
I might try and run
hickey.
an event. I might try and just scrap battle tactics and grand strats. And thank you to Tennessee Two Step for donating some bits for the hottest content creator Dan in the chat. I'm cool for you, baby. I might write it out, like just because I'd like to see what it looks like as kind of like a pack or as a comp set.
Yeah.
And I might even try and run an event under that comp pack and just be like, I just want to see not how it works as in balance, because obviously the game hasn't been balanced with that in mind, but how it feels, if that makes sense. Like I think that'd
For
be
the
good as well.
players.
For the players, how it feels for the players. So
Because I think what you'd find is people would say like that was the most interactive game of Warhammer I've played in a couple of editions.
I think
like every battle tactic was forcing me to interact with my opponent's army.
I think that one of the things that's good about battle tactics, to kind of give it its credit, because I have spoken very positively about them before, is that they give you like a dopamine hit, don't they? Like turn one, they take out an important part of your army, but you cast a spell and get 2 victory points. You get a good hit. You're like, I did something, so I'm okay. Like even if the game's a foregone conclusion, I guess.
Yeah.
But like watching someone do something, you literally don't engage with them and they just click points up. That's also a bit like fun.
Yeah. I think fundamentally for me the joy in battle tactics being in the game is that they force you to do things that might be outside of your game plan. You know, like they force you while you're playing to do other things. That's fundamentally for me what they should be. What happens? You score for playing on the objectives, and you score for achieving these weird little sub quests, you know, like these sub objectives that you choose each turn. The challenge though should be that those should still come at with risk. The problem is when you don't have to engage with your opponent because of them, you've got your sub quest. Yes, it's saying like you're doing something that's not benefiting your army play, you know, like it's not benefiting killing your opponent or scoring objectives, but also it's not engaging with your opponent at all. So there's no interactivity between you and them, and that's unfortunately where we've got it. These like the sub quests have nothing to do with the main quest. It's like, you know, you know what the example is? It's when you're playing a game and it's like, you must defeat the evil dragon lord, blah, blah, blah. And then some dude's like, I need some berries. I need you to go pick berries for me. And
yeah, we are doing side quests. We're doing side quests.
Yeah, but right, if the side quest is like, you've got to kill the dragon, and then someone's like, hey, did you hear? There's a sword that, there's a dragon slaying sword in the thing. You're like, oh, cool, this is a side quest related to the thing that I'm doing. Meanwhile, there's some dude being like, so the raspberries are red, and I need them. Like that's effectively what at the moment battle tactics feel slightly like to me, is like picking raspberries rather than, or you know, it's like if you killing the general, right, is equivalently being like, it's going to be easier to kill the dragon if you kill the general of his armies. You're like, that makes a lot of sense. Whereas raspberry dude's like, I'll give you a pie. Like a pie? a pie to fight a dragon? They're like, yeah, man, dragon, throw it in his face. He'll be like, oh no, pie in my face. What am I gonna do?
What am I going to
Ah,
do? What am I going to do? Yeah, Dan, thank you for going along this. This has been fun. Like, it's been good. It's been good. I need to get that out of my chest because, like, it's a bit like it feels odd and a bit silly. Like, and I want to go back to killing dragons. Sounds fun. Let's do that.
yeah.
Let's do that.
We're here to kill dragons, not pick berries. That's that should be the
Well, because that
like,
exists,
design
right?
principle of battle tactics.
That's D&D. That exists.
Yeah.
That exists. Okay, and I don't play that because I'm not a nerd.
It's every RPG game you've ever played has like there's rats in my basement. And admittedly, I think it's even in Baldur's Gate, but it was very tongue in cheek, like poking fun at how stupid that is. But I just dig that like you can be saving the world, and someone's like, I need someone to pick flowers for me, and that's what some of those battle tactics feel like at the moment.
Definitely. All right, Dan. When am I gonna? What are you up to this week?
Gosh, just grinding away at working things and grinding away at this Beast of Chaos army, like a me at a club, just grinding artlessly to the beat.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you get it done. That'd be really good for you, I think.
Oh, I'm on it. What about
I
you?
think this week I'm gonna get back to making a bunch of videos. I'm gonna put my head down. I'm gonna finish reading Dawnbringer's book 1. And then I'm going to start reading Dawnbringer's book 2 before I start reading the City of Sigmar book. I told you about my excitement about reading the City of Sigmar book. Have I told you this story yet?
No, go for it.
So I got the box last week, and I was like, I busted the book open on the train. Sat on the train, busted the book open. First page. If anyone who knows the City's book, you know what I'm talking about. There's a kind of like grim dark kind of like picture at the top of like the kind of, it's like a headshot of a Cities of Sigmar steel helm, right? Bit like all pencil drawing and stuff.
Do you want me to grab it down?
No, it's fine. Like, okay, but then that first page is just all like, this is the reason we defend the realms. You know, kind of like a statement and stuff. And I was just like, this is brilliant. Like, it gave me those goosebumps that I got when I first got into Age of Sigmar. I was like, oh, I'm excited. This is cool. It felt relevant. It felt real. Yeah. Like, and I've said this before. Like, it's nice and grounded, so that, you know, when you read the other weird shit, because Age of Sigmar is weird. Like, but this just gets to be normal, and you're like, cool. That's awesome. Yeah. And I just had about an hour reading the first half of that book, and I was like, do you know what? What an exciting place! Like, I don't think I've picked up the books for a couple of years to like read the story. That's on me, and so I want to really kind of throw myself in there. I want to like engender that love of the setting, not for the weird battle tactics though. That's too weird.
No. But that's the thing. Like, once as someone who has been following the story and the lore, I feel like with this, even the previous Cities of Sigmar books, they were like, Hammerhall is the city of banners, and they've got all of this, and blah, blah, blah. And for the first time, I'm like, no, I dig what it's like to be a mortal and to choose to venture out.
Yes.
Like, because you're not like slaves to darkness, worshipping a dark god, hoping for ascendancy. You know, you're a regular human. You have a short, easy to lose life. Why do you choose to go out there? Like, is it like, for some it's desperation, for some it's loyalty, it's so many different things, and I think that's wicked. And they've given you, I know it sounds dumb, but they've given you a watermark for being a mortal in the realms.
Yes.
Which means that being anything else makes sense. But if you don't have something to measure being an immortal space toad against, it's hard to work out where an immortal space toad sits on the scale.
100%. Yeah, like I'm on board with that 100%. That's a great description. Thanks, Dan. That rounds us off nicely. If you've enjoyed the show, comments and stuff, thanks. Like and subscribe. Please support us on Patreon. Thank you very much. Loads of love. You can find us here every Monday. And see you guys soon.